The Premier League is back. Game week 1, 10 games, and we've got them all covered here on this episode of the Prediction Show. We're going to look at all the games, make predictions and selections, and I'm also going to drop 5 overall predictions for the Premier League this season throughout the video. Who's going to win the title, who's going to be relegated, Champions League hopefuls, underperformers, overperformers, that kind of thing. So stay tuned as I drop those throughout the video. As we can see, we've got the fixtures here, and we start at the Emirates. Frank Lampard's Coventry away at Arsenal. What a tough game. What a free hit for Lampard's men to show what they're about. They're not expected to win by any stretch. So let's start there. Without further ado, welcome to the Premier League season 26-27. So our probability model for this one, first half goals, 81.5%, BTTS 53.4%. And that is where my head is at. We can take a look at the odds here. 2.63 is the current peak for BTTS. Now, of course, many of you will add in the comments that Arsenal's defence is elite. Just 27 goals conceded last season in the Premier League, and you would absolutely be correct. They're adding defenders to their arsenal of defenders every week. Some say they don't need Konsa. I would tend to agree with them, especially when Saliba comes back. There's going to be a lot of defenders not playing. Timber is back in training now as well. Ben White is fit. Anyway, enough about Arsenal's defence. Can they concede 1 goal here? Well, Coventry have actually scored more goals than any Premier League team in the last 10 games. Now, of course, that includes the back end of the Championship, but also they are in decent pre-season form. They will be very happy to have not lost a game and have beaten Espanyol and Monaco along the way. Nice preparation for the season. And as I say, it is a bit of a free hit for Frank Lampard's men. They are not expected to win this game. Can they go there, give a good account of themselves, show the Premier League what they're all about? Frank Lampard is not a novice here, and he'll have to get the balance right. But BTTS, it is a value play, this one, and it is my first selection of this video. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. Now to my first outright prediction for this season. And we can see here Arsenal lifting the Premier League trophy, and my first outright prediction for this season is that they will be lifting it again come the end of the season. I believe Arsenal will retain the Premier League trophy. Not particularly outrageous of a prediction, I know, but I think they are the team to beat now. And I just think the way they're building their team, it's very boring, but it is so effective. Adding Bruno Guimaraes is a fantastic signing. Solis, the left winger that they've signed, we will get to him. His numbers in Belgium last season were outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. I think he's going to do very well. Set piece delivery from him is also superb. And then they've added Konsa. They're about to sign Konsa. You could argue that they don't need him, but the strength in depth that will add across the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League, Premier League. And maybe, who knows, maybe Saliba's injury is worse than they're letting on. He's apparently out for 2 months, but maybe that doubles to 4. Who knows? Konsa coming in is a good signing, no doubt about that. And I think they will retain the Premier League. That is my first outright prediction. Now, let's move to the next game we're going to cover, which is Newcastle against Liverpool. We're skipping ahead to Sunday here because I think this game is going to be a cracker. It usually is, isn't it? Newcastle against Liverpool. Feel free to check the timestamps of the video if you want to jump around from game to game. We are going to cover every game. And from an entertainment standpoint, our model expects this to be one of the most entertaining games. We can see here both teams to score 63.6%. That is the highest rated game across game week 1 for BTTS. The only issue is that the bookmakers agree. 1.45 is the best price you're going to get for both teams to find the back of the net in this one. I think there's probably a little bit of value in going against this, given from what I've heard from Newcastle fans and what I've seen from Newcastle and the way that they are defending in pre-season. I think Newcastle United are far from ready for this campaign. And you've got two teams whose transfer business is definitely not done in this window. Liverpool are still looking for that right-sided Salah replacement. Bradley Barcola is being heavily linked. Can they get that deal done before game week 2? You would hope. There are strong rumours that they will. And then a look at Newcastle. I'm quite worried about Newcastle this summer. We all know that they've sold big again. Bruno, Tonali, Gordon have all gone. Eddie Howe's left. That is an enormous amount of quality to take out of one team, and they haven't really replaced it with proven Premier League experience. They brought in some good young players, but until they prove it in the Premier League, they are just that. They are good young players. There is a lot of pressure on some of these players, as we'll get to when we make our selections for this game. As we can see here, last season's data, 93 cards for the opponents of Newcastle. That was the highest in the Premier League. They were a very tough opponent to play against under Eddie Howe. Athletic, aggressive, players running at you, but a lot has changed. And even across their last 6 competitive games, only Everton, Brentford and Nottingham Forest have conceded more shots than Newcastle. But never discount this place, St James's Park. There is a new manager here, there is a new set of players, it is a new beginning, and yes, they might not win, but those first 10-15 minutes, the Newcastle fans will be right behind the team, as they always are. So BTTS, I can see it, to be honest. I do back Liverpool in this game, and I think the odds for Liverpool to win the game, just under evens, are pretty good. If you think that pre-season form from Newcastle, there was a game they played against Everton where, my word, they were defending terribly. I'm going to miss out on the BTTS, and I'm going to use the player props tool for this one, so let's check that out. So we'll start by taking a look at shots on target per 90, and now that the cavalry has left, this is what's left for Newcastle. Anthony Elanga tops the charts last 10 games, 1.34 shots on target per 90 minutes. Cody Gakpo there. Ekitike, he's not going to play. Alexander Isak returning to St James's Park for the first time since that move. And the way he left means he will be receiving a villain's welcome. There is no doubt about that. Is the script set already for Isak to score in this game? Would anybody be surprised about that? The midfield is also interesting, isn't it, for Newcastle? No Bruno, no Tonali. Let's take a look at tackles. So without those players I just mentioned, no Tonali, no Bruno. Joe Linton is reportedly injured as well and looking to move away. Jacob Ramsey tops the charts, 2.79 tackles per game, as does Bamba here. Bamba with 2.69 and Dedic. They are both new signings for Newcastle. Young players. Bamba, I believe, is 20 years old, midfielder, 2.69 tackles per game. He is a holding midfielder. The replacement for Bruno, you would assume. Big shoes to fill, that's all I'll say. All the best to those new signings at Newcastle, because I just hope they're able to actually settle in and are given time to settle into the Premier League, because they're going to need it. Checking out fouls drawn now, and we see Anthony Elanga again at the top. Without Gordon now, I think he's going to be one of their main players. He has to be, right? 3.24 fouls won per game. He's going to be up against Kirkes in this one, who, if you remember, the start of last season had a very, very shaky start to his Premier League campaign with Liverpool. So Anthony Elanga up against him at St James's Park. Maybe Kirkes can commit a foul in this one. So this is my selection for that game on Sunday. Kirkes to commit a foul and Liverpool to have more shots on target in this game. I just look at the two sets of players when we look at the predicted lineups, and it's hard to see how Liverpool don't win this game, given how disjointed currently Newcastle are. The only thing is, it's at St James's Park, and that place can be magic sometimes. It can give you a big, big boost, as Liverpool know when they play at Anfield. But Kirkes to commit a foul, as I think he will. We saw the fouls won from Elanga there. Kirkes not the best defender, he's good going forward. And Liverpool, most shots on target at 2.2. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And just generally for Newcastle this year, I think it could be a struggle. Not a relegation struggle, but compared to where Newcastle supporters want the team to be and the ambition that they were showing when the ownership changed hands first, I think it could be a difficult season for them. Next up, Hull City against Manchester United, the lunchtime kickoff on Saturday. So Manchester United away at newly promoted Hull. United are obviously expected to win this game, and I think that they will win this game, but that's not really the stat that I'm going to focus on here. Manchester United last season, 71% of all Premier League games ended with BTTS landing. That is huge. United actually took more points than any other team after he returned, and Bruno Fernandes was fantastic, player of the year, and they deservedly finished third. But when I look at the other teams and what they're building, and when I look at the defence of Manchester United across an entire season that will now include European football, I am not convinced. I am not filled with confidence if I was a Manchester United fan. There is a big difference this season, and that is that they are in Europe. Now, that won't impact this game against Hull, but it means extra matches, extra travel. Injuries will come to some of those defenders, and that's going to feed into my second outright Premier League prediction in a moment. But first, the selection for this game. Manchester United have bought in Youri Tielemans and Andre Santos. That is kind of what they needed, because now you are going to see much more output. I mean, he was fantastic at the end of last season, but now Bruno Fernandes will be given a little bit more freedom, I feel. So rather than taking Manchester United at a short price, I am going to dip into the player markets, and we have Bruno Fernandes to have a shot on target from outside the box. That is evens at the time of recording. As I say, I think he's going to get into some very interesting spaces this season. I expect his output to improve if that's possible. He was superb at the end of last season, as we all know. And that brings me to my second outright prediction for the season, and it does include Manchester United. Sorry, Manchester United fans, but I do believe you will miss out on the Champions League places this season. I think you will finish outside the top 4/5, depending on the coefficient. I like Carrick. I think they've improved in key areas. Tielemans and Santos make sense in the midfield, but defensively, I don't see much improvement. I know you're in the market for a left back, but when I look at the centre backs and the right back, Dalot doesn't fill me with much confidence. Maguire could get injured. You're playing a lot of games in Europe. I think you need a healthy, fit, young centre-back that can be relied upon, and some extra legs in defence for sure. So I do think, and given that teams like Tottenham and Chelsea do not have European football, I think they will finish above Manchester United. That is my big outright prediction, number 2 out of 5. Next up, we're going to take a look at a 3 p.m. game on Saturday, which is Nottingham Forest against Leeds. Now, Nottingham Forest against Leeds, and Nottingham Forest to win is a value bet with our model. Glasner to get a win in his first game, odds around 2.4. Is that one that you're going to take this weekend? Let us all know in the comments. Let me know what you're on for this weekend. I really do look forward to reading the comments on these videos. Glasner's first Premier League game. I just want to touch on the signings that both of these teams have made, actually. We can see here Diamande for Nottingham Forest, 22-year-old centre-back who already has great experience at a good level, coming in for decent money, it must be said. But that is a good statement signing from a club like Forest. And for Leeds to sign Trafford and the centre-backs that they brought in as well, very, very good defensive recruitment from both of these teams. I don't think either of these teams are in danger of going backwards this season. When I look at both teams, I think that Nottingham Forest do edge it in this game. I'm interested to see how Gibbs-White does under Glasner, because Glasner got a lot out of Eze and Elise, and even Mateta coming in, looked like a brand new player. under Glasner, so I think there is potential that Forest start well, and 2.4 for them to win at home, albeit against a much improved defensive unit of Leeds, is a value play with our probability model. Now my selection is this: under 4 goals in the game. I think Leeds away from home last season were very difficult to beat, arguably better away from home than they were at home, picked up some vital points, vital wins away from home as well, and Leeds to get the most cards, because I think Glasner's side, and looking at the two teams and comparing those players at the top end of the pitch, I do think Nottingham Forest have got a little bit more. I think they'll dominate the ball and edge the game, but that's not to say that Leeds will lose or Forest will win, and to be honest, my selection doesn't care about that. Leeds to get the most cards and under 4 goals. I would be very surprised if we see more than 4 goals in this game. Now to the Etihad and Manchester City against Bournemouth. City's first game in the Premier League without Pep. They of course lost 3-0 to Arsenal in the Community Shield, and they did look a little bit disjointed, a little bit all over the place. Rodri's gone, Stones has gone, they've lost key players, and I think it's going to take maybe a few weeks for them to settle in. Elliot Anderson and Kovacic as the pairing, I don't think that's the answer. Elliot Anderson of course is going to play, but it's like they need somebody else next to him. There is a Rodri-shaped hole in the Manchester City team. Haaland hardly touched the ball in that game. That is a problem as well if they cannot find him with the quality that they've got on the pitch. Doku apparently is out for this game, so that again weakens the supply line to Haaland, and I'm interested to see how Bournemouth do. They've got a new manager, but the players are still there. Ryan, his first full season in the Premier League, the Brazilian winger, he was absolutely fantastic after joining in January, and he is, I think, set to have a big season. Bournemouth have had an entertaining pre-season, scoring plenty of goals, and I'm interested generally to see how Maresca's City will look here before actually making a selection on this game. I found it difficult to put something together that I was truly comfortable in, because of course it's hard to guess who's going to play for Manchester City as well. So no official selection for this game from me, but I would expect Man City get over the line, but I would not be surprised if they concede in this one. Everton against Crystal Palace, another new manager with his Premier League debut here. Palace or draw is a value bet if you think Everton will start the season without a victory. Pierre Sarge is the new manager, of course, after Glasner left. Everton are entering a season with a little bit more stability under David Moyes. Hackney from Middlesbrough has come in as that deep-lying playmaker. Be interesting to see how he plays and how Shrewsbury Hall maybe takes on a little bit of a different role, a bit more of a creative role ahead of him. You just don't know what you're going to get with Everton. I think they'll have good spells this season and then not so good spells, and then ultimately finish maybe 11th or 10th. Again, no official selection for this one for me. I want to see how these teams do in the first few seasons before making a prediction. But of course, if you are value betting with OddAlerts, you will have seen that Palace or draw is a value play here. Next up, Brentford against Spurs. Now then, Brentford against Tottenham, and I am going to enjoy watching this game. Brentford have been scoring a ridiculous number of goals in pre-season. They beat Rennes 4-2. They beat Frankfurt 7-0. They're not really playing cautiously. Some of the goals that they've scored as well have been fantastic. Spurs have had a fascinating summer. De Zerbi is here, his first full pre-season. They've spent heavily. They've got Tonali, they've got Fernandes, Andy Robertson bringing in a ton of experience and leadership. They've improved their defence with Sensei. Vicario has gone out on loan as well, which is an interesting one. They finished 17th in the Premier League. That is absolutely not acceptable for Spurs. Now they have no European football and a much improved team. I think they are going to have a great season. I've got an outright prediction that includes Tottenham. But first, let me show you my selection for this game, which includes some player props. Now it's game week 1, so we are allowed one selection for a little bit of fun, and this is it. I've taken a little look at the player props tool. First link in the description if you want to check this out. Tonali to have a shot on target. I've watched a bit of Tottenham in the pre-season. I do like the spaces that he's taken up. So for him to have a shot on target on his Premier League debut for Spurs, I believe he scored on his Premier League debut for Newcastle. Schade to have a shot on target. He is the more outside choice of the forward players for Brentford, but of course he is a great winger for Brentford, goes under the radar but usually chips in with 10 goals a season. And Andy Robertson to commit a foul in this game is 7.5. It's game week 1. As I say, I'm allowed one for fun. I mentioned my outright prediction that involved Tottenham. Here it is. I believe Tottenham will win a trophy this season. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. Tottenham will win a trophy this season with De Zerbi. They don't have Europe. That is important. He can be on the training ground with them every week, and it is important for a manager like him because we saw what he did at Brighton. I think that was the closest thing to Pep that anybody has actually got in the Premier League that I've seen. What he did at Brighton for that spell where he was, clearly a great coach and took Brighton to new heights. The football that Brighton played during that spell was superb. And as I say, it's the closest thing, I think. Maresca at Chelsea was good in terms of the passing out from the back at the start. But De Zerbi, some of the performances that he achieved at Brighton, if Tottenham can get to that level, then wow, they've got a really good chance at success this year. But next up, a team that is seriously in need of a rebuild now that they've lost a lot of players, Brighton against Aston Villa. Now, one of the highest win probabilities offered from our model for the Premier League this weekend, this opening weekend, is Brighton to beat Aston Villa. It is the third highest, 50.6%, which is roughly just under evens, 1.98. The bookmakers are giving you odds of around 2.28, which is, of course, a discrepancy, a value play. Can Brighton beat Aston Villa in the opening game of the season? They've had an excellent pre-season. They've beaten Strasbourg, they've beaten Roma, they've beaten Bologna. Free from free against very decent oppositions, and they've made some impressive additions. They are a much more physical team now if you look at the signings they've made and the profiles of their players. And for Aston Villa, Tielemans has gone, Morgan Rogers has gone, Konsa is about to join Arsenal. There is strong speculation linking Ollie Watkins with a move away. I mean, Emery's not a magician, but year after year, he deals with this and he gets them to go again. Is this a step too far for Aston Villa? Can they realistically challenge for Europe once more with a depleted squad? I'm actually going to go with the single Brighton to win 2.28 as part of my value bets plays for the season. Of course, value betting is a long-term thing. We'll be tracking all of these throughout the season. I've got my own bankroll where I track value bets that pop up on OddAlerts all the time. So Brighton to win at 2.28. Let me know what you think about that one. I like what I see from them in pre-season, whereas Aston Villa, I think it's going to take them a little bit of time to get going, just like it did last season. Now, the final of the promoted teams, Ipswich against Sunderland, and Ipswich have spent a lot of money this summer. I think they spent about £150 million last time I checked, and they've got a home game. That's always good to start at home, and against a team like Sunderland, no disrespect, they'll think that they can win this game. Both teams will think that they can win this game, and that makes for a good game, as you'll see in my selection. Sunderland have got some good players. Brian Brobby is one of my favourite forwards in the Premier League. He is a throwback to, a very traditional, physical, strong forward, occupies defenders, had a very good World Cup as well. He bullies defenders, and I love that about a centre forward. My selection for this one, given that Ipswich are at home, I think they will score. I think they'll look to impress. They've got a lot of new players that they will want to get out and show what they can do. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. A nice open game at Portman Road. 2.25 is the price for that. So BTTS and over 2.5 goals. I think we will see a winner in this game. I've got a scoreline prediction as well. 3-1 to Ipswich. And this leads me to my fourth outright Premier League prediction. And it includes Sunderland. Sunderland will finish in the bottom half of the table. I could have been a bit more stronger on that because I think they could flirt with relegation this season. At times, I think they will flirt with relegation. They are in Europe. They may prioritise Europe, but also their XG, I know people won't like me saying this, but their expected points based on their XG and their XG conceded had them very, very close to relegation last season. You could say they were lucky or that they were massively flattered by their underlying numbers, really, last season. And now they're in Europe. They've got there. They've done it. Well done to them. But can they go again, fix those underlying numbers, whilst also preparing and playing in Europe? I don't believe they can. I think they will suffer in the league as a consequence. And I'm going to have them as flirting with relegation this season, Sunderland. That is my fourth of 5 outright predictions. And finally, Fulham against Chelsea on Monday night, West London derby, and another fantastic BTTS rating from the model. Newcastle against Liverpool is number 1 at 63.6%, but Fulham against Chelsea is second, 62.4%. Arbeloa is the new manager, of course, and they brought a couple of young players in from Real Madrid. One of the strikers, by the way, very talented forward who will replace Raul Jimenez. I wouldn't bet against Fulham this season. I think they do have potential to do well, but Chelsea, as we'll see in a minute with my final outright prediction, I think they'll have a good season. Chelsea are probably one of the teams that I'm most intrigued by this season. Xabi Alonso, no European football. Morgan Rogers, what a signing. An expensive signing, but he's a great player. To complement Cole Palmer, who had injury spells last season. If he's fit and firing, they're a different team. And João Pedro, coming off a ridiculous pre-season. They have a squad with huge depth and Jordan Henderson. So BTTS is my prediction for this one. BTTS and Chelsea to win would be another option to go with. It is a value bet, BTTS, marginal value bet, given how highly our model rates it for this game. Let me know what you're on in the comments. This is one of those games, and Fulham are one of those teams where I just want to wait a few weeks and watch them. I will watch this game and just see how Arbeloa sets up his teams. New managers coming into the league, it's always important to see how they do, how they approach teams, and how they set up to attack. And this game might not be the best example, but when they play teams that are in and around them, that will be a good indication for sure. And this game leads me into my final outright prediction for the Premier League season 26-27. My feeling is that Chelsea will be the closest challenger to Arsenal this season in the Premier League. I've already said I think Arsenal will retain the title, but I think Chelsea are deep in that conversation as well. No European football. They've got an elite manager. They have spent aggressively, as they always do, and they've got a collection of young players that, if managed correctly by somebody like Alonso, I think players really do respect Alonso. He was a sensational player, and he's still got it if you watch some of the training videos. It could tick, it could work, everything could click. The players that they've got at the top end of the pitch, outstanding. Esteval, Palmer, Rogers, Enzo if he stays, João Pedro, ridiculous pre-season he's had. Welbeck, 15 goals last year for Brighton. Great signing if he can just come in when João Pedro's a little bit tired, or play in the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, get them through those rounds, the early rounds. Yeah, I think Chelsea will challenge for the title. That is my final outright prediction for this Premier League season. So tell me in the comments which of my 5 is going to look ridiculous by the end of the season. Thank you all for watching. This has been a long first bumper episode of the prediction show for the Premier League. I'm going to try and refine and perfect the format as we go through the season. And of course, if you want to see me cover more leagues on these episodes, please do let me know. We did the EFL last week, Premier League this week. Who knows what we will cover in the next episode? I'll see you then.